Joining us now, Dmitri Alperovitch. He's the Russian-born chairman of the Silverado Policy Accelerator think tank and host of the Geopolitics Decanted podcast. Good to have you on, Dmitri. I wonder what you think the ultimate goal of this attack is by Ukraine here. Is it purely about diverting Russian forces from the Eastern Front, or is it also about creating some leverage?
Well, I think this was an opportunistic attack. They saw that the Russian forces were very weak there. They saw an opportunity to upend the whole discussion of this war in the international media and coverage, where we've been talking a lot about how the war has been stalemating, Ukrainians were steadily losing ground. No one is talking about that now as they're advancing within Russia. They've taken POWs, they've taken military equipment. So tactically, at least, it's been a stunning success, but it's also a gamble that's not without substantial risks.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about those risks for a moment, because I think we could say with some confidence that U.S. officials were somewhat nervous about this because they have been quite concerned about an escalation of this conflict. That said, Ukraine has every right, certainly, to attack Russia, given the horrendous attacks Russia has carried out inside Ukraine for more than 2.5 years now. What is the risk here for Ukrainian forces, and what do you think the risk is from the U.S. perspective?
Yeah, in my conversations with U.S. officials, I'm not hearing a lot about escalation risks. There is nervousness about this offensive, but mostly from the perspective of, are the Ukrainians going to get a strategic advantage because of that? Because they've pulled their very experienced forces and equipment off the front line in the east in order to do this offensive in Russia, in southern Russia. But in the east, in Donbass, they're losing ground to the Russians steadily. And it's not clear that they can hold this newly captured territory in Russia. If they were able to do so, of course, it would be beneficial to trade it for captured territory in Ukraine.
So let's talk about that trade, because quite immediately there have been dozens, perhaps hundreds of Russian forces, Russian soldiers that have been taken as POWs since the start of this campaign. That is immediate leverage for the return of Ukrainian POWs. But in terms of land captured, do you believe Ukraine believes to hold this land until some sort of agreement, perhaps, to exchange it for Russian-occupied territory inside Ukraine?
The people I speak with, including people at the front in Ukraine, are very skeptical about their ability to hold this territory. This is vast territory. They only have about a division-sized force there, about 10, maybe 15,000 at most, and the Russians are now mobilizing to try to retake it. It's a vast terrain. There's no fortifications. There's no trenches, no minefields. So holding it is going to be a big challenge for them.
Do you believe that Putin was caught off guard by this, and do you believe that he feels any vulnerability as a result of this attack? As we've said oftentimes on the air, it's the first attack inside Russian territory since World War II. And I think we could say perhaps similar to the challenge he faced when Yevgeny Prigozhin's Wagner forces were on the road to Moscow a number of months ago. Is this a challenge to Putin's leadership?
Well, no, there's no question that Putin and Russia more broadly was caught off guard and were completely unprepared for this attack. However, I think it's important not to overestimate the impact here on Putin personally. He doesn't seem, to me at least, overly concerned about this. These troops are far away from Moscow and St. Petersburg, the center of Russian power. He's calling it a counter-terrorist operation, not an invasion that he has to fight back. He's not yet calling for a mobilization of the Russian forces to fight a foreign invader. So he's treating it and downplaying it in the media quite significantly. So, it's not yet a challenge to his power in the way that Prigozhin mutiny was.
To our knowledge, do the Russian people, other than those who are seeing it with their own eyes in the Kursk region, do they know? Are they aware of Ukrainian forces advancing many miles into Russian territory?
They do. This is not sort of 24/7 coverage in Russia, but they do cover the fact that there is an incursion. They do cover that there are refugees. Over 100,000 people have fled the southern Russian region to escape the advancing Ukrainian forces. They have relatives across Russia. So this is broadly known, but there doesn't seem to be a big concern. And I think the assumption on the part of many is that this is a temporary setback and that the Russian forces will ultimately retake back this territory.
Dmitri Alperovitch, thanks so much as always.